We want to take a moment to introduce you to Swing Diversity, our initiatives, and how you can be part of the movement.
Swing Diversity endeavors to be an agent of change and celebrate diversity and help to improve inclusion and equity in the West Coast Swing community.
Our 3 initiatives are representation and scholarship, awareness and education, and accountability and policies.
To address the lack of representation in the dance community, Swing Diversity will be taking several steps, such as awarding the biannual Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, or DEI, scholarship in the summer and winter. We'll also break ground on Swing Diversity University, which will offer several application-based programs to train community members in specialized roles, such as judges, DJs, MCs, and dance instructors. Each of these programs will include formalized training, as well as a structured pipeline into staff positions at events. Finally, once we've improved the infrastructure of our community, a long-term goal is to partner with local community organizers to facilitate outreach.
Swing Diversity University, in which we will provide formal training to lift up community members into places of influence. But we don't just want to improve the training and hiring of diverse community members. We want to educate everyone. So that brings us to our second initiative, awareness and education. We will develop implicit bias training for judges, as well as allyship workshops for event attendees.
Our third initiative addresses the current lack of accountability in our community. We hope to work with events on providing audits to show where we have been and develop roadmaps to show where we're headed.
With measurable metrics to celebrate progress and assess continued areas of opportunity.
As you can see, we have a lot of plans, and it will take time to implement, but we have one example of an early stage case study to share with you. Wawa Westie has taken initial steps to do their part in being the change they want to see in the community. This year, the Wawa Westie event directors committed to publishing a State of DEI report. In the report, you will find Wawa Westie's approach to DEI, including a page dedicated to empirical data and statistics. This data and the analysis derived from it gives us a quantifiable snapshot of where we are now while adding historical context. Arguably, this is the most important tool we have in benchmarking, goal setting, and accountability to date. This type of transparency from an event, I hope, becomes the norm. Not because it's punitive or cumbersome, but because we care enough about the community to be transparent and real with one another about where we actually are.
If you're an event director that wants to improve inclusivity at your event, Swing Diversity is available for partnership. Send us an email with your event name in the subject line. We would love to hear from you.
Follow our Facebook page and fill out the survey to tell us what you want to see in our community. We'll also be opening up board member applications in August.
Change isn't just coming, change is here. Swing Diversity is willing to lead the charge, and we need people like you.
And we hope that you'll roll up your sleeves and get to work with us.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you on the dance floor.
All right.
Hello, everyone. I know, Laurel, you were you were pinned.
Okay.
I'm gonna jump. I'm so sorry. We technical issue on the back end. I just wanted to thank Dion and Judith for doing that video for us. I think what Swing Diversity is fantastic. I just love that, you know, they're just taking a snapshot of what our scenes look like, and they're just being transparent. You know, there doesn't need to be any judgment one way or the other, but I do think we need to kind of understand, you know, it's not, I always say it's not where you start, it's where you finish, and they're just setting up a starting point. So the last thing I want to say before I push over to Laurel is, like, our goal is to reach $10,000 for the today. It sounds like we're at $8,000 right now. So please, if you are enjoying the content, if you feel like this is relevant, if you feel like you're getting some information out of this, and you have some money to donate, please support the Black Mindy Hoppers Fund.
Yes, thank you to everybody who has donated thus far. It's very exciting. You know, you heard Tina and Michael. I mean, it is important to pay Black artists for their time and expertise, and to provide accessibility and opportunities for our up-and-coming Black dancers and other Indigenous and people of color in our communities. So thank you again, and thank you to our future donors, those who are watching right now. The links are in the chats. I also want to thank everybody for sticking with us. I know This has been a very dense program, and we are running over time. Shocking. But we really appreciate those of you who are sticking around and then who are going to share this with your own communities, because there's so much good information from these panelists. And speaking of good information, we have Dr. Yonna, who is going to, she's our professional specialist in equity in hiring. So we've been talking about hiring. There's nobody better person to talk about this. Who can bridge both the corporate world and swing dancing. So take it away, Jan.
Well, thank you so much. And I feel like I've been in a master's class for the last hour and 45 minutes. So I really appreciate everyone's insights and input into this important topic. And I have been dancing in Lindy Hop since 1999. So I do have that connection to the community. So it's really, I feel honored to be here. And the couple of things I wanted to touch on is around, what can you do as a dance community leader, as a scene leader, as a promoter, as a dancer, because you saw the great work that Dion and Judith is doing from the Swing Diversity video. It's a lot of programs, right? And you may be, all of these great things that we all talked about here today, it might be swarming in your head about where do I start? So I wanted to first start with how I advise organizations when they're looking at enhancing a sense of inclusion, enhancing a sense of diversity and equity. Start by looking at data. So when you think about data, think about it in terms of hard metrics, and also, so it's quantitative metrics as well as qualitative data. And because we're talking about human beings, qualitative data is so important to paint a broader picture. So think about data driving decisions. So whatever decision you make, you need to make sure that you collect data first. So I loved all the conversations, particularly around values, and Lori talked about this in depth. So starting first with what are the values of your event or venue, and why that piece is important because you're talking about organizational culture. The venues and the events, you have a culture. And when someone steps into your particular venue, they will get a look or they'll feel what it's like to be part of that culture. They may feel like, I don't want to be part of that, or I want to be part of that. So thinking about what that value is, that is sort of the kind of the North Star for where you want to go in terms of enhancing DEI in the dance community. So then do exactly what Dion and Judith talked about, which is taking a snapshot. So a diversity snapshot of your demographics in terms of not just gender identification, but race, ethnicity, even generational differences. I think that's also an important piece. There are older dancers, there are younger dancers. We have a multi-generational dance force, so to speak. So think about that as well. Style differences too. Consider that. When I first started dancing, I've heard, okay, this person is a salsa dancer, so they're not going to be a good Lindy Hopper. There are all these different, and no offense to salsa dancers, right? It's like, where did that even come from? So keeping that in mind, I think, is important in terms of all of the different dimensions of diversity. You have to speak the right language when you are doing any kind of survey as it relates to DEI. And we have actually a link to the diversity style guide, and that will be in the chat. And what that is it's a guide it's a curated guide by reputable sources, and it has over 700 proper terminology and appropriate use of language as it relates to DEI. So this is a great kind of resource for all of you to think about. If you are creating a survey to take that snapshot, how do you even categorize certain groups in terms of their race or ethnicity? What is the proper terminology? This guide in particular gets updated on a regular basis because DEI is a constantly evolving concept. So you have to keep up with it, right? So I think the last time this guide was updated was January of 2021. So it's pretty in-depth and also relevant. The other piece, so once you've taken that diversity snapshot, The next thing you want to think about is, survey the environment, especially if you are looking to reopen the dance floors. What's happening in the corporate environment is that, as you probably know, employers are looking to return to the office. It's not return to work. They've been working. So they're returning back to the office, and they're looking for ways to understand what it's going to take for the employees to return back to the office in a safe and efficient manner. So think about that concept and applying it to opening up the dance floor. Do a quick survey, and it could be a very quick pulse survey with simple questions around the topic of inclusion and belonging. So some questions that you can ask are, do you feel safe emotionally and physically? Do you feel included in this particular venue? If you are a dancer of this particular venue and you've been dancing at that venue for a long time, do you feel like you could bring your whole self as a dancer? And what do I want from this venue? So you're asking these questions that are around inclusion because inclusion leads to people feeling like a sense of belonging. And you don't know what people need until you ask. I know it's stating the obvious, but I think sometimes we try to go to what's the best practice, what's that solution, what's that magic potion, but that doesn't exist in kind of this entirety. You have to actually collect the data to inform what that solution is going to be. And the other piece too is, just don't be, and Lori talked about this, you're going to make mistakes along the way, right? You will offend dancers, you will offend prospective dancers, you will offend the community. That happens. And what you want to think about is it's important to recognize that you've made an offense, acknowledge it, apologize, and then keep moving forward and learn from that mistake. That piece is so important. And to use a dance analogy, dance is a two-way street, right? So for dancers who are re-entering or wanting to enter, the other piece is around just having compassion and a sense of empathy for those who are creating these scenes. And don't point the finger when something goes not exactly the way you want it to go. Bring it up to someone who's maybe running the venue and bring it up as feedback rather than here's a criticism about how you're doing things. So it is a two-way dialogue, and that's what's going to help us to create more inclusive environments where, as you think about extending the dance scene to other groups of underrepresented dancers, ultimately, they're going to see and feel what you're presenting, and they're going to either feel like I want to be part of it or not. And, think about this whole dancer's journey. We talk about the employee life cycle in organizations, but think about the dancer's journey. You enter the scene, how does it look and feel? You develop in the scene, you learn these skills and great stylistic perspectives as you're learning from, I was going to say professors, but instructors, and then you advance in the scene. So when you think about each phase of the dancer's journey, think about how you can support based on this data that you could collect along the way. So companies do employee pulse surveys. You could do a dancer pulse survey. How fun would that be? And it doesn't have to be extensive. It could be a 3-question survey to better understand what that dancer's experience is like. So I'm going to pause there for a minute because I think that was a lot of information.
Well, it was a lot of excellent information. I know there's a lot of things that our community can use. And of course, as you all are watching this, Dr. Yona is an expert. So I think there's a lot of really excellent practical ways to implement change and to start with data collection and some self-assessment.